loves, welcome to Love, Learn and Share with me, Avan Shiko. Today we are going to do yet another episode of how to become a pro actor on stage, and you're going to major on attitude towards your role. Let's get this video started.
I remember when we were staring at a photo. Don't forget the way you looked me in the eye.
Welcome back. If you're new, welcome to the family and consider subscribing. Now, what is attitude? Attitude basically means your feeling towards something. And in this case, the feeling you have towards your role. Now, you could either have two types of attitude, a negative attitude or a positive attitude. If your attitude is like, oh yes, I've been waiting for this. This role, I can't wait to perform it. It's really interesting. I'm gonna do it. If your feeling is like that, then that means you have a positive attitude. And that means that your work is already half done. Having a positive attitude equals positive acting or equals good acting. Positive attitude equals positive acting. But if you have a negative attitude, why the hell did they give me this role? A negative attitude equals bad acting. The first step to getting rid of your bad attitude towards your role is to know why you are having that bad attitude or negative attitude towards your role. You have to know the source of your negative attitude. It could either come from a place of intimidation. Intimidation probably because, let's say, you are new to the game. Probably you're an amateur. You have come into this production and then all of a sudden around you there are these pros who are reciting the lines. When they enter on stage, it's like magic on stage, and then there is you with your role. And you don't know how to do this. If you're like that, just know that the role the director has given you, he already trusts that you can do it. And by the director giving you that role, it's already half done. The battle is half won. If the director believes in you, all that is remaining is for you to add in a bit of self-confidence, weave it with a bit of faith, and the tapestry of the director's magic, and the role will be done. So all that is remaining for you, if you're feeling intimidated, is to have self-confidence. Okay? Another tactic that will help you if you're feeling intimidated is to not compare yourself with the people around you. Stop comparison. Stop comparing yourself, because if you compare yourself, it will not help your case, because there is this saying that says there will always be someone who is always better than you. Trust me. It is true. Even the one who thinks he or she is the best, there's someone out there who does it better than him or her. So now, because that is the case, what do? We stop comparing. The battle is against yourself and not against you and other people, okay? So by you stopping comparing, it will ease in on the intimidation part. You will not feel as pressured when you don't compare yourself. Know that this race is against you and not against other people, all right? So don't compare, and also have self-confidence. Another thing that can help if you're feeling intimidated by the role is to work your character one step at a time. Say, it could be you're feeling intimidated because it's a big role. Let me give you an example. I have a friend who, when he was coming into the production, he came from a production whereby he was used to doing comedy roles. Like, all he knew to act was comedy, and he is freaking good at doing that. He is such a good comedian. Like, that guy can crack you up on stage effortlessly. And then he comes and the director decides to give him a villain role. Now, the guy is quite bulky. He has a strong voice, strong stage presence, and quite authoritative. But I think he couldn't see that in himself. So when the director gave him that role, he was like, oh no, I can't do this. Like, he couldn't believe he could do it. He was intimidated by the role. But if I tell you today, the guy is not only the king of comedy, but also the king of antagonist role. The guy is a butcher. He is a villain. He is like one of the best I've ever seen. So, like, all that happened is that the director refused to change him that role. He begged and begged, and the director told him, you're doing it because I know you can do it. So he had to find the self-confidence in him and just work it up, and eventually when he got to accept the roles, up to date, he's not only doing comedy, but he's also doing villain role. Any villain role that comes, he's the first candidate. So self-confidence goes a long way, okay? Self-confidence, working your character one step at a time. How do you do? Say you've been given the character of a villain, right? And it's a big role. Say you're an amateur, or you're like that guy used to different roles. You're used to romantic roles. All of a sudden, you're on the side of the villain. How do you do? So you work your character. in steps. So like number one, you could decide to work on the facial expression. You work on the facial expression. So how do you do that? You work, maybe it's a villain. How do I need to look at people to be a villain? And then you can go to the voice. Maybe you need to be more authoritative, like, I told you to come here. Or say your role is a creepy character and you need to work on your creepy voice. Child, can you come here? I'm going to give you up. See, you work on your voice. God, I looked creepy. See, now you've worked on your voice, you've worked on your facial expression, you also work on your posture. So this guy is a villain. So how do I need to sit? Probably you never even sit. Maybe you're a hunchback. You're used to sitting like this. So how do you do? Maybe you practice on sitting straight, you know? You practice on sitting straight. You work on the posture, practice on being authoritative, practice on your face, practice on your eye movement, you know? So you just work on your character one step at a time, until you eventually work on the whole character. Eventually it will become easier with time, and by the time you're being given the next big character, it will not be as hard. All right, I trust with those tips you'll be able to work on the intimidation part. Now, you could also either be having a negative attitude towards your character because you feel it is too small for you. I've come across such people. You're used to doing big roles, you're used to being the star, you used to, being the one in the spotlight. And then this one time the director just decides to slap you with a minor role, like, and you're like, really, dude? Really? Me? Really? So that one I cannot help because it's sometimes a matter of ego, or it could also be a matter of, I don't know, you feel like you can do better, If it's like that, just remember, even the major characters need the minor characters for them to shine bright on stage. Even the lighter, the candle needs the small matchstick for it to light up. So the small role that you're playing plays a big role in the tapestry of that whole play. This top that I'm wearing, it has a combination of a lot of strings. All these strings started off as one. Each and every one of them, when beautifully put, bring out a beautiful pattern. You understand? So everyone is important, even if you're just going there and you're looking people around. Say you have a role that you're just saying, no, and then that's it. That no is really impulsive, because by saying no, the other one can be able to counter you, so everything is important. That's all that lies. If you're feeling that your role is too small and you don't deserve it, that's all I can say. Remember, you're playing a big role in the major tapestry. You are needed for the pattern to show. Now, also, you could be feeling a negative attitude because you just don't like the role. Let me give you an example. This one time when I got into theater, it was the first time when our production was working on acting the St. Luke's. Our company is the first ever production to stage the St. Luke's Gospel in Kenya. So when I got in there, they were kind of like getting in the gist of it. And then the director decides to give me the role of Satan. And I'm telling you guys, I was dealing with a lot of issues that time. I was just like, I think a year or two after high school, and I was a late bloomer. So that means puberty hit late, So even the going away of the puberty stage is still late. I had acne all over my face. I was your typical teenager, all moody with puberty and stuff. Like I had self-esteem issues, let's just say that. And then the director goes ahead and casts me for Satan. I was just like, I never liked that role from the start. I was like, couldn't they give me like Mary, Mother of Jesus? Don't I look like a virgin? Don't I look like a virgin? Can they give me Mary, Mother of Jesus, or Salome, or Magdalene, or Martha? They just gave me Satan. I had a negative attitude towards that role. I was like, mbona amenipa hiyo role? Why did they give me that role? They just looked at me and saw Satan. I must really look bad for them to decide to give me Satan, my face is scary and I don't like, and then I had shaved my hair, so you can imagine, as in, I just, after taking your stage, like when I used to go on stage and the director tells me to act, I would just freeze and I would not know what to do, and I would just go there and recite my lines, and I would always promise like, I'm working on it, until this one time, I decided to go and ask him, why did you give me the role of Satan? And he explains that the reason he gave me is because I had wanjakihe behavior. Okay, for those who are not familiar with the term wanjakihe, it practically means someone who is hyperactive in, what do I say? I was basically hyperactive. I could do cartwheels. I could do what do we call them? Cartwheels. We could do somersaults. I could contort a bit. I could do 180. So according to him, fitted with a bit of costuming and a bit of makeup, I could fit into the role because I could contort, make all kinds of, I could do somersault. I could appear in any way I wanted. So that's why he gave me that, because he saw my abilities could be used for the role. After he explained, I was like, oh, I spent all my life here thinking I was ugly. That's why you gave me that role. Anyway, but after that, I went and started even becoming comfortable with that character. I started researching on how to walk like a creepy person, because anyway, come to think of it, Satan must be a really beautiful person, because if you have a very beautiful voice, you must be also really pretty. He's an angel, come to think of it. But according to the perception that we have of Satan is someone scary, someone bad. For you to bring out that on stage, you have to be bad looking to fit the stereotype that people have. So I started watching all these horror movies. I practically don't like horror movies, but I had to watch them for me to research my character. So I started watching them. I started researching on how I'm going to walk. I started amping up on my somersault and on my yoga and on my stretching so that I can be able to do it properly. Like, let me tell you, it really changed my attitude. I even acted at one time in a school and a student fainted because of my role. Come on, guys. See, that helped. Now, it was coming from a place of insecurity. That's why I did not like that role. Like I said, you have to know the source of your negative attitude. The source of my negative attitude was the insecurity I had. I felt they gave me because I was ugly, so my self-esteem was low. And I thought by acting this role, I was actually stamping the fact that I was ugly, which was on the contrary. When I got on stage, people were scary and stuff. And I went on curtain call, they were like, oh, no way, really? And like in this book that is happening right now, Bembea ya Maisha, that I talked about last time, the role of a shosho, I practically don't look like a grandmother of 68 years. But when I get on stage with all the makeup and those clothes that I wear, here's a picture of how sometimes I look, but from afar, just a bit, And when I get on stage, after I talk and I'm like, oh, you're acting like a shosho, and you're contorting your face when you add your what do we call it? Your what? We add your makeup and your clothes. You end up looking like an old grandmother. So when I get there, and then at curtain call I go, and the students are like, what? No way, you mean you are, oh my god, yeah, oh my god, it's such a good feeling. Now, that is from a place of insecurity. Now, it could also be you don't like the role because you actually just don't like it. Maybe you are not relating to it, or you're not vibing to it. You just have a negative one. For instance, let me tell you, there's this book called Mapambazuko ya Machweo. It's the new set book. For those who don't know what set book means, probably in the diaspora, there are these books that we perform in schools for students, and they are tested in the examination, so they're really important, and we are kind of like artistic teachers to them. So we act for them, and then they get the picture of how it's supposed to be. So there's this particular story in this Mapambazuko ya Machweo. Mapambazuko ya Machweo is a combination of many short stories. In this one story called Fadhila za Punda, I was given a character called Lily. At first, I did not have a bad attitude when I was reading the role, because when I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, this woman. No, first of all, I had read the story before I was casted for the role. So I was like, hey, this woman is strong, And then the director winds up giving it to me. And then we get on stage and we are doing it. And that's when it dawns on me that I'm going to be beaten. For like how many scenes? I think 4 or something. And then the worst thing is that you're being beaten, and then in the next microsecond you're supposed to change and dress all nice because it's a different setting. It's not a setting of being beaten or at home. And then you come back, you be beaten again, and then you go change into another setting of an office. Like Mimi, I was bored with that. I hated that one. Nilikuwa nasikia role hiyo book inafanya, I'm like, kill me now, just kill me. And then mkose mwende shule yenye aina floor. Okay, what do I not floor particularly, but like it is not cemented, so you're supposed to be beaten on the bare floor, yani unachafuka, alafu in the next microsecond you're supposed to come back all clean and like all dressed up really nini. Unatoka hapa kwa kwanza, unachapwa mateke, unalia, unakuja hapa unavaa nguo za kwenda church, unaenda church unavaa vizuri, unatoka hapo unakuja unatandikwa tena, unaenda like I hated that role. Let's just say that I hated it until what helped me with changing my perception of that role or my attitude towards that role was I actually decided, you know what, I cannot keep hating this role because I will not deliver, because it got to a point whereby the character is supposed to cry because you're supposed to be beaten and you're supposed to show suffering. With suffering comes tears, and I could not connect with the character for me to feel her and cry. So what I did, I asked myself, what value am I bringing by acting this role? And the story in itself basically is speaking out on domestic violence and marriage problems. Basically, it's like a home setting, a marriage life, love thing, and mostly domestic violence. And by seeing that the value I was bringing was by educating our ladies, our girls, our women on domestic violence, it kind of like changed the perception in my mind. And whenever I went on stage, I was like, I'm doing it to send a message. So by you asking yourself, what message are you sending, will really tick off that negativity in your brain. So every time you go on stage, you'll be like, I'm giving value by acting this role. And that really helped me with that. Actually, guys, that's it for now. We are going to talk more on how to become a pro actor on stage later on in another episode. Ikikubamba, give this video a like so that it may find other actors just like you, and also you can share it with your friends and members. Bye guys, until next time. Ciao.